What is up, everyone? We're back with episode 17 of The Algorithm. I'm David Verjano here with JC Perez, and we're stoked to have you guys back for another breakdown of all the madness that's been going on in the world of branding, marketing, technology over the past 2 weeks. JC, what's been lighting up your feed over the last couple of weeks?
The last couple of weeks have been, well, first and foremost, shout out to Marcelo. I don't know why I just got that. I saw that it was announced yesterday, but yeah, he's going to be hosting the ESPYs, man. And wow, I mean, what a career this kid is having, dude. And shout out to a hometown guy, Latino, Cuban, obviously, and doing a great job. So shout out to him. Nothing lighting up my feed per the usual. A lot of AI stuff, a lot of perplexity stuff, a lot of brand activation and experiential marketing stuff, given some of the kind of things that we've been working on and talking about, and some of the pivots that we're having as a business, growth that we're having as a business. So yeah, a lot of that, a lot of physical marketing coming back is a lot of the things that I'm seeing. And funny enough that it's catapulted by digital, but I think people are really diving into the physical, and being in person and being able to touch, feel, see the brand and people and interact. So a lot of that has been lighting up my feed, experiential. So it's been taken. The algorithm has been taken over by that.
Yeah.
How about you?
I've been getting a lot of sports-related stuff, especially now with the NBA Finals and with the FIFA World Cup on the horizon. So between that and like looking at just how brands and creators are kind of making stuff around, the athletes and teams, like the New York Knicks. There's so much New York stuff on my feed now, even like nostalgic New York stuff, since they haven't been back to the finals since 1999. And then just like the anomaly that is Victor Wembanyama in the San Antonio Spurs and how he's taken, the league by storm. So a lot of that kind of stuff been lighting up my feed, and we have a couple stuff in the rundown to break down towards the tail end with sports. So we can.
What are you drinking today?
I'm skipping alcohol today. I'm just drinking like a green juice because
I'm drinking on my own today.
Yeah, I'm going a little sober today just because I've been under the weather, and I feel like I'm just gonna make it prolong getting healthier. But
fair enough.
Yeah, today I'm just sticking to that.
I'll be solo dolo, drinking some Brugal today, some rum. So yeah,
that's a great choice. So yeah, well, let's kind of go through the rundown today. We'll break down some brand moves. We'll talk about the new model for media that we continue to see be disrupted, on the way that you make movies, on the AI front, on social media. Like so many things are shifting, as well as like the counterpart of, are we returning to early digital era, that kind of like digital analog era of like the late 90s, early 2000s, seeing people, even younger audiences, kind of wanting some of that reality coming back. And then the last couple ones, vibe coding gone wrong. There's like one story that has been very spicy we want to kind of dive into. And the last one, like we were mentioned, wrapping up with some sports stories that we've seen and feel are like really interesting to cover. So first one here, we'll start off with Wendy. They rolled out a new custom typeface. This was designed by a typeface design company called Dalton Maag. They rolled out this custom typeface that is kind of like referencing some of their products in a subtle way, right? Like they're more rounded, they're more square patty, and kind of like making the O a little bit wider, a little bit more squared in certain points. It's not like a perfectly circular shape that, you could see here even by the S's and certain, they made like two typefaces, one that's like a primary, one that's secondary. That this one mimics the Frosty a little bit. So you get to see here kind of the way that they, included some of those little subtle nods to things in like the logo, their products, and how they updated this typeface to start kind of having some of these references. I think it's well done in the sense of like when you zoom in to see how each letter kind of like took shape and how they did this. I think it's a good job. I did take a look at some of the applications of it. I feel like they still haven't found like the right usage. I saw it in action and I felt like it's falling flat. But I feel like as you see it like this, it does look cool. And you have like this the ability to do something that's a little more playful, a little bit more bold, but still has like a good it still feels like yeah, this is food and beverage. This is supposed to be fun. They're obviously a brand that online is very like tongue in cheek. They fire back at people. So
Mm-hmm.
to have that dichotomy, like they don't do that in advertising, but they do it on social. So it's cool that they can kind of have these two crispy and frosty is the way that they're kind of referencing it. So overall, I think here you'll see what it looks like. It's also variable. So you guys see like from all the way from light to bold. You see it compressed, and I just feel like it's a good way to take. It's an existing font that they just modified. It's called Objective or Objective, and so I think that this is like a cool nod to elements that they already have in the brand in ways that they can kind of just have something a little bit more ownable, something that is true to them. What are your thoughts on this from face value?
Face value, I love it. I love the new typeface. I love how the direction that they're going. I really do like how they're playing with the shapes of the food and the items that they have. I love when brands do that because there's a story behind the font. It's not just a font to have a font. But I think this is when it comes to like a business perspective. It's always great to have a refresh. But I think Wendy's needs to focus in on a lot of different parts of their business on the refresh side of things, because they are, for a lack of a better term, shitting the bed in the last like 5 years with their service, their customer service. Their food quality has gone down. Every single Wendy's that you go to is like it's a hit or miss. Like you never know what you're getting. And I was always a huge proponent of Wendy's. I thought Wendy's had a really good stretch there, that they had like the most consistent fast food. There, it was the whole fresh not frozen, and you could taste it. Their burgers tasted great. And I can't say that the last like 5 years. So well done. I hope this is the beginning of them really like focusing in on their business and on in every part of their business. And I think that they need to take a longer look at their customer service and their food quality. Because yes, I agree with you as well. Their social media is on point. They're really good. They have their own kind of brand and their own voice, and they really across social media they're consistent with that. And I do agree, they kind of get in your face and they don't really give a shit, and I like that. I like when brands kind of are out there a little bit with that, but they're not backing it up as a business at all. And I think that you open yourself up to criticism, and you open yourself up to just lack of trust when you're saying something, you're bold and you're out there and you're doing these rebrands, but the back end just nothing changes. We talked about it with Tostitos. It's just like, yeah, you change the bag, and it's funny. We had Braden's birthday here on Saturday, and we had a bunch of Tostitos, and it's the same product. It's the same ingredient, same product. Like, it's just, there's nothing different. And the bag was the only thing different. So, great job to this company, to this agency. Amazing job. They did a fantastic job. I think it looks bold and fresh and nice. There's a little nostalgia there too, because of the curves and whatnot in the text, but in the font. But yeah, the Wendy's has a bigger issue than just their typeface.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this should be just one of many other changes and other updates that need to happen. And so I don't know if this was part of that or if it was just a one-off thing that they were like, hey, let's just update our fonts and hope that does the job, because that won't do the job. So let's see. We'll keep a closer look and we'll circle back to it if we notice any new updates, any new campaigns and stuff.
Hopefully. I'm rooting for them, man. Like I said, I've always been a big fan of Wendy's. They've always had good food. So
yeah, and speaking of a brand that shat the bed more recently is Ferrari's. Ferrari, they came out with the Luce, which is their EV vehicle. It's pretty much you can buy it for $640,000. It's a 4-door sports car. And a lot of people feel that they have completely departed from what you know Ferrari for.
I mean, just completely,
And so
brother.
just looking at these renderings of it, it looks like a car that is not directly. It looks more like something that Apple would do in collaboration with Ferrari than it almost like, hey, you guys saw what Jaguar did, and then you said, why don't we do that? And you just completely departed from it. Like, sure, the lights here reference it and you have the logo, but everything else about it, this silhouette reminds me more of like Audi than it does of Ferrari. So it, needless
It
to
looks like
say,
a Tesla, man. It
yeah,
looks like a Tesla.
yeah,
And that's not to knock Tesla, but Ferrari is Ferrari, dude.
yeah,
Like it looks like a fucking Tesla.
yeah. And the day after it was announced, like their stock plunged by almost 10%. And I don't know how
Jesus
it's been doing
Christ.
recently, but this was a tongue-in-cheek one. This is not a real post, but someone created this as if the other car makers were
Brother,
chiming in on it. Brother Ew from Lamborghini looks like a misshapen toaster by McLaren. These
terrible.
are great little like commentary that someone made up. But yeah, you could. This is not far fetched to think that internally people at those companies are like, wow, these guys really. I don't know. It's almost like good. This makes us look better because we haven't done anything that drastic. So yeah, it's definitely not the way that things should have panned out, according to a lot of people. Lamborghini CEO immediately used a moment to publicly validate their own decision to scrap their electric plans in favor of hybrids, essentially saying Ferrari proved us right, showing that like going full EV is not the move for something like an exotic sports car. Toblerone and other brands chimed in. They did this or like, this is not happening. We'll always keep our angles. So I think other brands chiming in and making fun of it is also always fun to see what the commentary is there, and they get a little bit of the attention from it. So yeah, what are your 2 cents here before we jump into the next conversation?
These were a bunch of executives that felt pressure on of the electric market and what Tesla's doing and what's the other company that's higher end than Tesla, that they have really nice cars. I was looking at them the other
There's
day.
Lucid, there's Rivian.
I think it's Rivian that has really nice, and they're pretty expensive. So I think it's just it's trying to keep up with the Joneses. But when you're a legacy brand like this, man, and when you're a luxury legacy brand like this, like you are the Joneses, dude. Like you set the tone. You've always set the tone. So this is not only very foreign for Ferrari to be in this position of like trying to keep up and trying to keep up with the Joneses, but also just like stylistically, it's just completely departures from what they are. That I mean, that I don't even think Tesla would come up with something like that. Like they would, their designs are nicer and they are they're very EV looking like Tesla, even though they have like some of the cars are nice designs, but it just doesn't. It's not Ferrari, man. And I hate when brands depart from being who they are like this. Like again, you've always been a leader because you've led, because you've been at the top of the game. You've innovated. You've stuck to your guns as well throughout many decades of change and of updates and car shape and different things. And it sucks when you see legacy luxury brands do this. Like Jaguar, to your point, you said it earlier. Like Jaguar last year. And it's just like it's trying to appease the 1%, and then just killing your entire demographic and pushing them in the process. So
yeah,
very frustrating.
Like you mentioned, if this looks closer to a Tesla, and you had to go side by side, if I'm looking for an EV, you look at the performance, you look at the technology. Tesla's right there with it at a fraction of the cost. It's like, why would if I want a car that looks like this, then I'm just going for a Tesla. If I want something that looks like a Ferrari from what I know it, then yes, and I have the money to do it, then you go for the Ferrari that you've known, not this. So I feel like it's already showing that it's going to flop. So I could quickly see how this gets like withdrawn altogether after like barely a rollout. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but yeah.
Congratulations for following fucking Jaguar. I thought people would have learned after Jaguar, but apparently not.
Yeah. Clearly, there more mistakes need to be made, and by people that are out of touch with their consumer and with reality. And and at least we get some fun out of it and get to see
That
reactions.
is hilarious.
This is great. Moving on to the next topic is this idea of a new model for media. And we saw the past couple weeks this idea of going from YouTube to the big screen with two feature films that came out in Obsession and The Backrooms. And they were both kind of films that were originated by people that started off on YouTube and on social media and are young directors. Like both of these directors are in their 20s. One is 26 and one is actually 20, which is insane.
Amazing.
And they were both produced for very low budget, honestly, compared to what you usually see from these kind of films. The numbers here for Obsession was it was produced for about $1 million and it grossed over 17 million opening weekend, followed by 2 consecutive weekends where it grew more, 23 million, almost 24, and then 26 and a half. So it's overall, from the moment that I did this research, it's reached 151 million worldwide for a film that was produced for $1 million. So
it's a good ROI.
Yeah. So the return on investment is definitely great there. 26-year-old writer-director Curry Barker, popular for YouTube for making comedy videos, but he has, he's always wanted to make a film that was like in this world, and like the numbers speak for themselves. Besides the box office, earned an A- in Cinema Score and 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's killing it. And then something that was a good call out was that 75% of the audience who turned out was between the ages of 18 to 25 in that opening weekend. So Gen Z came out. So
which
going back to the theater, I was just at the studio. Roby was there meeting with a couple other local filmmakers, and they were saying that the actual attendance to the theaters has gone up to above pre-COVID era. So we're starting to see the trend finally like bounce back. And even pre-COVID, we knew it was stagnant and going down. So there is like this new resurgence of people wanting to go to the theaters. And especially younger audiences. So seeing that and seeing that success is kind of promising if you're a filmmaker. And I hope that films like this give promise to people that are young and people that are in the industry. Like, don't lose hope that obviously we've seen streaming and we've seen new ways that people consume this stuff, but don't completely discard the idea of like going to the big screen. And then I don't know if you have any 2 cents, but if not, I'm just gonna like jump into the Backrooms here, because Backrooms was produced by A24. This one was a little bit higher budget at 10 million, but it's earned over 118 million worldwide.
Jesus.
So it did. It's what's it called? Opening. Yeah, I think it's killing it essentially. And this one is from Ken Parsons, who's just 20 years old. And his backstory is even crazier. It's almost like he started using a Blender and Unreal Engine, like 3D rendering software, to create these scenes. And it became really big on YouTube, and people would like share these things. It became like this eerie thing, like the kind of scenes you see like in passing, or like when you see you pass by a mall and there's like an empty space that you're not supposed to see it empty. It's kind of like in transition. Places that you're used to seeing like populated with people being completely empty. So, or like these, when you go into like a back room or like this hallway and it just feels like, what was supposed to be here? Like, I'm not supposed to be here. So it's all based on that kind of like eerie sort of like maze of rooms and weird kind of like fluorescent lighting and all this kind of stuff. So that idea, which that video of the Backrooms found footage has racked up over 224 million views over like across 22 different videos that he made. So clearly they built up a following and this almost like notoriety for this stuff. So it was baked in. It's not like a concept that nobody knew about. So that helped them being able to be like, all right, now A24 comes in and like, let's freaking scale this up to another level. And it's been killing it. I'm curious to see once it's all said and done, what kind of money this makes. But both films that were done for low budget and have grossed well over $100 million at this point, it's incredible. So I don't know what your thoughts are here, but my takeaways are that YouTube clearly is a discovery channel that can clearly lead you to the big screen, can lead you to a TV series on some of the big streaming channels. And going back to what we covered not too long ago, they're following that Blumhouse model where it's like, let's make something with a lower budget, but make it good, make the storytelling good, make like the cinematography good, and that will ultimately be the thing that draws people in, not like I need to spend $100 million to make this amazing VFX riddled thing that if the story sucks, it doesn't matter. Like people are not going to talk about it.
Yeah, and people are going back to what we spoke about earlier. People are obviously going back to the theater, but going back to just like these physical events and experiences in general. And I think that's a great sign. You said it. You hit it perfectly. Like YouTube, I would say, social media in general, but YouTube specifically because it's long format, it's horizontal, etc. Is becoming this kind of like place where people can start telling their stories, start creating their brand and build their brand, and then hopefully end up on the big screen. We saw this in the D2C market, 10, 15 years ago when people said brick and mortar is gone, and it never went anywhere. It just e-commerce became that platform, that area where people built a base and then made the case to be on store shelves.
Yeah.
And so what you have now is you have when you go to a grocery store, when you go to a big box store, those are brands that are true, tested, tried. They have a base, they have a demographic that is a following. Whereas before you had a lot of these like obscure brands on shelves that you didn't know if were going to work or not. It was a lot of these buyers were taking risks on that. Whereas now, like you have these platforms, platforms that creators can create on, build their base, build their following, and then now make a case of like, hey, now I want to make a movie. Now I can create a movie and I can get people to the box office. And then obviously you said Blumhouse and A24 have been doing this for a minute now, and they're in a really good position. So, but this is a really good sign for physical activations, and we talked about this for events and experiences and movies and things that you have to go physically to. I think you're going to see the wave continue to grow, and it's going to continue to rise. People feed on that. People want community. People want to be around people. That's never going to change, no matter how much digital advancement we have. So, yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, and I think the other takeaway here is that proof of concept in whatever industry you're in is more important than ever. So the e-commerce point you made, yep, that means that you proved it online and it got so big that now you have a retail front, or you're now in a big box retailer. Same thing with this. You proved the concept on YouTube. People discovered it. It racked up views. It racked up, fame and notoriety for you being known for these things. And guess what? Now, you got the eyeballs of studios and producers to be like, hey, let's take your idea and take it to another level. So those are two completely different things. Media and cinema and e-commerce, and both are right in the sense that you need to show proof of concept. And lucky for us, the barrier to entry and to make that proof of concept is more accessible and affordable than ever.
For sure. I mean, we have a blueprint at Cultura ourselves. Like, look at the proof of concept that Roby built with the Walls Have Ears. Over and over again, he built that proof of concept of like, hey, I can write something, I can direct something, I can build a story, I can create this story, and I can get people out to the point where that caught the eyes of Loud and Live, and now we have Alberejez, which is a hit across the board. So that's a perfect example of a proof of concept and something that is physical, that is experiential. These type of immersive events. So yeah, proof of concept across the board. And to your point, like now the barrier to entry is a little bit easier if you have the tools, if you have the knowledge, if you have the talent. The barrier of entry is a little easier to be able to do things like this, where this wouldn't have existed 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yep. Then another point here, speaking of media, is more on the legal side. New York passed an AI disclosure law, specifically that takes effect in June 9th. If you run paid media and you have AI generated people in these ads, you have to disclose it. I'm curious to know how this is going to manifest on the channel level, whether it's Google or Meta, but I don't know if Google or Meta will add a tag on top of the video, or if you have to now label the way that, pharmaceutical companies have to add the tag at the end, or certain people have to disclose something in the disclaimer of the video with text that goes on the video itself. But the key points here are AI generated people need a label. AI generated products, backgrounds, and wide scenes do not. So if it's a synthetic model holding your product, you have to label it. If it's a product only shot or AI background with no human, you're fine. And the law is channel agnostic, meaning it applies to Meta, Google, YouTube, TikTok, programmatic, everything. So this is in the state of New York. If you run ads and you have New York as part of that, if it's a national campaign or a campaign where you selected the market of New York, this is something that you have to take into account. And like the question becomes now is like, is this something you think every state should enact? What kind of ripple effects will this have? There's a lot that needs to be unfolded, and like we need to see how it pans out. But what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is tough, man. I don't know where I lay on this right now. I don't know where my decision and how I feel about this, because like, did we do the same thing for CGI when CGI came out? It kind of changed the entire game. We didn't do that for that. I know AI is a completely different animal, but very similar in the way that it's disrupting the market. So I don't know. I really don't have an opinion. I usually have like very heavy opinions on this. I don't have an opinion because it's tough. Where does this end then? Where does the labeling end? What are we gonna, how much are we gonna label? So it's very tough. It's very new. We're all digesting this right now. But I will say this. I think the legal aspect and the legal component of everything that is going on right now, AI wise, tech wise, content creator wise, is incredibly important and incredibly sensitive. There's a ton going on right now, and I know we have Amanda, our attorney, the Creator Council, and she helps us out on a lot of this stuff, because we're dealing with a lot of this stuff. We're dealing with a lot of the the creator contracts and just all the newness that's coming through on the marketing and media side. So I think you're going to see what this is going to see. Everything has an effect, a consequence. There's a ripple effect on all of this, and I think like legal wise, you're going to see a lot of these new kind of genres and new areas of law that you're going to see new attorneys. You're going to see different types of attorneys, because this is all brand new. And I think this is just the beginning. So I don't know. I really don't know what to take of this. It's tough because we, as an agency, and we talk about this all the time, we're kind of like in the middle of this. So we straddle both of the lines. But it's very difficult. I wonder if it's to protect celebrities or the people that are promoting the products. Yeah, I don't know.
What's funny is our next story actually talks about celebrities and licensing their image and likeness and whatnot. But my take is that I think this is an experimental move. I think that what's probably going to happen is there'll be more self-governance at the channel level, like Meta themselves. Well, I mean, you see it on Instagram. They make you label something if it has AI in it, or it'll auto-label it. So it's like, I feel like it'll become a pain in the ass for advertisers if like you're doing a national campaign, but then specifically for New York, you now have to like change the creative to add that little thing. Like, it's not a huge deal, but imagine now other states follow suit, and like 3, 5, 12 different states have things, and now you have to like, piecemeal the thing. And so again, I'm not like, for advertisers, it's not like, oh, woe is us, like feel bad for us, because at the end of the day, you're promoting something and you have to abide by the rules that state, that channel, whatever the case may be, puts in place. So, but I do think over time this will technically go away, as you mentioned. Like when you were doing CGI, that has never been labeled. Whether that was a dinosaur or a person or like another figure in there, like you understood that was computer generated effects.
You just know. Yeah,
that's what this is. Like, this is computer generated, machine learning, visual assets, visual effects, visual, people that are created, and it was never labeled that way. So I think it's just more that right now there's an anti-AI trend going on, and I think that they kind of did this to, you know, New York and California tend to be on the forefront of these kinds of things. So I don't know. I think that it might be a trend that starts and then it's going to recede over time, and we'll see how it plays out. Maybe I'm
I
wrong
will.
though.
I will tell you this: the biggest losers here are los viejo verdes that are commenting on all these on all these fake AI influencers in their
Yeah,
comments, and they're going to
yeah.
realize that they're AI influencers.
Hmm.
Those are the real losers,
Well, even if it's an organic post, it won't have to be labeled apparently. So uh,
apparently.
we'll see. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have Stan Lee, the estate of Stan Lee. They licensed his image and likeness, specifically his voice, when he struck a deal with ElevenLabs. Um, so it's built from archival recordings, right? And it's in the marketplace for ElevenLabs that you can choose amongst other people and other voices that they've kind of have in their marketplace. You can use it in ads, films, video games, and whatnot. So, you know, kind of taking a glance here, it's the voice will be added to the marketplace. You can license it yourself, and essentially, like this now creates this question of like, cool. It's cool that he gets to live on, and this was done by the estate of
Yeah, of
Stanley's
course.
his family or whoever is in charge of that. The question becomes like, where does licensing and exploitation begin? And it's a question
Mm.
a lot of people from the outside that don't know about this stuff have, right? Like, oh, this is exploitation. Like, how could they do this? But it's like, it's
It's like
done by,
music.
yeah, it's Michael, you know, the estate of Michael Jackson licenses his image and likeness, and they do theater, they do movies, they do a bunch of things. He's no longer alive and able to make those decisions. But the other side of it is, if the family or if the people who are in charge of it make that decision, then that should be enough, right?
That's it, right?
Yeah, it's their right to do it. And just because they pass away doesn't mean that their entire body of work should go to waste or like die there. Like it's
Agreed,
almost like an honor. It's a tribute. Like, hey, this person
for
was so
sure.
important or made such an impact that we want to continue to like bring
Mhm.
them back to life in a sense, or like have a memory of them recreated. So I mean, even for us with Avahead's show, it's like
Yeah,
that was with buy-in from his family, and that we got the blessing of his family, and uh, so it is sensitive, but I feel like those are the right things that should be done. It's better that it goes this way and it gets licensed than like it being completely ripped off, and then you now have like an AI generated voice or face of Stan Lee that his estate never approved, right?
and who's to say that that Stanley wouldn't have wanted this? Like, you don't know the conversations that he had with his family. You don't know if, like, in that, in that will or whatever the case may be, he specifically said this. Like, you don't know. Obviously, he was in, he was in a very interesting time where, like, he was privy to a lot of the new tech and a lot of the new things that were coming out. So, who's to say that he didn't know that this was coming and had a conversation with his family? Who's to say that, the same like you were saying about his, like, you saw the reaction that their family had when they were there that day. Like, they were they felt blessed that we were able to continue to tell his story in the way that we did. Yeah, it's the family's right to be able to continue the legacy, but also too, like, if you're just looking at, like, brass tacks and being very commerce about it, like, it's also the family's right to make money off of their family, their person, the person that had this career, that gave them the air to continue to make money and to profit from the success that they had. Like, I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see it as exploitation at all. It happens in music all the time. So yeah, if anything, we're becoming a very sensitive society, because I don't see any issues with this at all, and good for good for ElevenLabs to be able to be doing it in this way. This is a
Mhm.
very kind of like new school meets old school way, where, like, you're taking the way that music has done it for a long time, and applying it to the new tech that we have. So good for them. I applaud it.
It's funny because I remember having a conversation with some friends probably like during the COVID era, like 2020. And I remember distinctly telling them that this is where things are going. Like, people will license their image, their voice, uh, all that stuff in perpetuity as these new technologies and new tools become more and more. So, like, because they already do it while they're alive, right? Like, hey, I'm endorsed. I put my name behind this, and you can put my photo of Messi standing next to a product. But with this stuff, you now get to do it and pass it on to your children, pass it on to your loved ones, pass it on to other people that you care for,
man.
And just be like, if that's why it's important to have like a good legal console and have like all that stuff in place to be able to make sure that you capitalize on that when that time comes, and don't wait until God forbid you're in a coma or you can't make that decision. So again, these are the kinds of things that I prefer going through this legal route and you license it.
Me too.
To be the wild west, and it's like, oh well, anything and anyone can take advantage of it. And there's always a statute of limitations, right? There's a point where it becomes public domain, right? So there is that part of it as well.
Yeah, good stuff.
And then the next topic here is this conversation. It was like this one reel that I came across. It's like the questions like return to early digital era, right?
Yes.
And it talks about Tinder's new feature, which is about going to back into in-person dating events, launching in Los Angeles specifically, like curated IRL events, going to bowling, going to raves, going to certain classes. And then this other aspect of like an app called Channel Surfer that it kind of creates YouTube videos in a TV guide era of like the early 2000s. So let's watch this video. Let's see if the audio works, and then we could comment on it.
They have announced that they're going to start testing this idea of events where people like meet up in person, and then you can start doing this thing. And what I thought was interesting is that you're just reinventing dating from first principles. And then if you go to this second one, Perry, there's this new app that came out this last week called YouTube Surfer, where what it does is it recreates old school style cable TV channels where there's YouTube videos playing, and you can click like on the left, Perry, you can go to like the History Channel, and you just join in like midway through whatever video is playing, and you can see the thing.
Kind of sick.
It's awesome, right? And a bunch of people are like, okay, this is kind of sick. Like, instead of choice paralysis, or if you're unhappy with the YouTube algorithm, you can kind of channel
joining a YouTube video in the middle is kind of base,
right? And you can see how many people are watching right now at the bottom. It's like 300 people are watching. So this is another one in this app idea. Really cool, really creative, right? And what I think is so interesting is it feels like the newest innovations and the things that are getting a lot of like viral attention are us just reinventing what we had 20 years ago. Just to be clear, little, viral fun kind of toy app. But people are like, yeah, it's really nice to feel like you're watching with other people, like, or have the same kind of thing. There's a limited choice, so I'm not just endlessly scrolling. And the same thing with events. The idea that Tinder's big breakthrough is going to be to get a group of people together in person to talk. That's just not Tinder, dude. You're just organizing events. And so I just thought
you are just an event organizer.
You're just an event organizer.
It's just a different business. Like,
So I think they summed it up great. I wanted to actually share the Channel Surfer thing. Like, if you come here,
bro,
disembarking and throwing their equipment and weapons out the back of the vehicle, like out the hatches.
Cable TV.
Literally cable TV.
Kind of insane. So yeah, that was just like a cool, just an insight to me, is showing like, yeah, we saw it with the film stuff we talked about earlier today in people going back to the theater. We're seeing like Tinder being like, damn, I guess like everything can't be just swiping and all online and all on your phones. Like, people need to connect in person. It's like, yeah, no shit. That's part of dating. You need to connect in person at some point. So it's this weird, it feels like the early 2000s and like the late 90s are making a comeback in some sense, and it's spearheaded by Gen Z, and also the nostalgia that we have. Like, millennials and Gen Z are kind of like spearheading this movement of like, yeah, it was kind of nice to have, being able to go in person and not everyone's whipping out their phones, or being able to enjoy something with a little bit more limited options instead of like this endless scroll, this endless amount of options. So yeah, little preview here, like you see on the Tinder kind of like rollout. Yeah, they just have, this is an event. It almost feel like it is Eventbrite or something. Like, you're realizing, I'm sure this is driven by the fact that they're losing some people and they need to find a way to re-engage and like add a new layer to their business. Because the fact that it's, look, apparently this is how it looks. I haven't been on Tinder in forever. Swipe is the first thing. Events is the next thing. So they're like, oh shit, we gotta like chat is the third thing. like they're like almost like pushing that to the back end in terms of priority when you look at the UI here. So that's what's going on the Tinder front, and just like recreating the idea of events, and looking at a snapshot of the TV guide kind of thing with the Surfer app. So maybe people will actually have social skills again. Hopefully that this brings back that idea of like connecting with people in person, not being afraid to talk to a stranger, and just having a little bit more of like, hey, maybe we don't have to reinvent things all the time. We talk about AI, we talk about emerging technology here, but we're also very like cognizant of sometimes there's things that are good that you should be able to go back to or appreciate because it wasn't broken. It was something that was actually appreciated and people want more of. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so the other day, it's funny, and it goes along these lines. The other day, my mother-in-law has sent me something on Instagram about a non-alcoholic bar that was opening up in Miami. I think it was in Coral Gables. And the first thing that I could think of was A, don't go to that bar. And then B was man, people are just fucking craving being around people. Like what an excuse, just a non-alcoholic bar. So basically just a coffee shop, with cocktails, mocktails, and you have you do have this big push now of all these like, THC style beverages or whatnot, where you make the cocktails and the mocktails. So that's cool. I get it. But people are just craving being around people, man. Like who would have thought, right? People want community. People want to connect and engage and collaborate. And I think this is a really good course correction for society post-COVID. And, we got thrusted into being on our own and being in our own houses, and kind of like that sedentary and that very, what's the right word? Like reclusive type world that we lived in for a little bit. And I think just people are realizing, you see it on the workspace too, and the work, what we do, we're a hybrid company. We a lot of us work from home, or all of us work from home, but a couple of days a week, more than a couple of days a week, we go into the studio and we collaborate, and we're with each other, and we're messing around, there's camaraderie. And I think that's so important on so many different levels. And I think as a society, we're healing a little bit, man. This is good. I like it. But we are reverting back. And we all saw it. We've talked about it. Like we knew it was going to happen. Again, I hate to continue to bring up the same example, but it's such a great example. Like I remember 15 years ago when I got into sales and marketing, everybody was saying that brick and mortar was dead, that brick and mortar was dead, that brick and mortar was dead. It was going to die off because of the onset of Shopify and Amazon. And the contrary, brick and mortar now are popping up again, and people want to go in, they want to see the product, they want to feel the product, and it's the same thing, just people want interaction and community, and they want to engage. So this is really good. I like it. It's a great trend.
Yeah, and if there isn't like the clear indicator of it's not going away, is that for the most part real estate continues to go up in value, and those who have places that people can gather, or be able to meet, invite people over, whether it's more intimate or larger scale place. Like the fact that real estate continues to grow is proof of concept there, because otherwise it would be sinking. It would be like, well, nobody wants to come here. Why am I holding on to this land? Right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of what you do with that land. Like I could have a piece of land and it could be empty, and I don't do anything to activate it, and I don't invite anyone over. And but the fact that if you live around other people and you are in a place where you run a business, or you have a restaurant, or whatever the case may be, you need to find a way to maximize and make the most of it. Before, it was people were smoking inside of restaurants. Guess what? Hey, smoking isn't cool anymore. Like you can't smoke inside. Things change. Like big box retailers and stuffing a bunch of stuff on shelves and making it all about the products, and this way we're seeing that shift. We're seeing more like, hey, maybe embed some more experiences, make it more interactive, do something else with it. But that doesn't mean it goes away. It just means that you need to change the way it works so that people can come back.
It forces adaptation. It forces you to adapt as an industry. Yeah, and I think it's a fantastic shift that's happening right now. It's really cool. People are just craving him. And one thing that people don't talk about a lot, which is I think at the forefront of all of this, is that a lot of us, especially us that are in specific fields like us, like media and marketing, where we're fucking talking to a machine every day, all day, depending on what it is. If it's a creative machine, if it's an ops machine like Perplexity, like we're talking to an AI, a machine all day. Like, dude, I fucking crave that interaction on a daily basis with my wife, with my kid, with my friends. Like, yesterday we went out to have pizza with some friends, and like that interaction, just having that conversation about books they're reading or whatever the case may be. Like, man, that you crave that. I actually craved like talking. It's funny. Carlos called me on the phone today. We talked for like an hour, and I craved that. Like that was like it was a great conversation because we're just sitting here talking to a machine all day, and I think that's going to be more prevalent here moving forward. Is that people are going to just have that craving? It's a natural. It's in our DNA, man. We're built for that. We were built to be tribal. We're built for that communal that interaction. So yeah.
And the last part here, we'll play some of this video of like this idea of like the age of analog. Like this is just more of like compounding the trend that we've seen of people shifting back in their devices and the usage mainly in Gen Z and younger audiences.
What's the biggest trend of 2026 going to be, I hear you ask? Going analog. This past year, we've seen the rise of nostalgia, a switch from iPhone cameras to digital cameras, here into the viral analog bag. Yes, I understand the irony of that. People are redefining their relationships with technology and social media. Old iPods are getting more expensive, as magazines and zines are becoming more popular, as people slowly switch to physical media. As the generation who grew up primarily online slowly realizes we don't really own anything. Instead, we have countless subscriptions for movies, music, and other virtual media. Meaning with a couple of missed payments or a forgotten password, we can lose years worth of audio and visual collecting. And just like that, the idea of a digital dark age suddenly becomes a whole lot more personal. Now, all of this, along with the fact that social media has become a more and more divisive space in recent years, what was once an escape from reality and a place to make friends and build a community, has become a space that many of us are trying to escape. In 2026, we're going to see people moving towards more analog hobbies. Think CD players, cinema trips, and iPods. Now, let me know in the comments if you could be persuaded to go analog and which analog things you're most excited to switch to.
So real quick, I want to jump on that. She said something, and I think I've told you this multiple times already, that there's days I go like sometimes 2 or 3 days that I don't go on X, or I try not to go on Instagram, but that's almost impossible for us as an agency. But that I try not to go on X because you go on and the amount of Armageddon this industry is done. Whatever industry, pick your day. It's a new industry because of a new AI tech or whatever the case may be. Like I'm done with that shit, dude. I can't do it. Like I can't do it because you're all day on this just like the world is ending, anxiety. And it's across the board. Pick your poison, pick your platform. It's on every platform. So I agree with her 1000%. And I think that's part of why this is happening is people are what we used to find, tech and social to be an escape from reality is becoming now just our reality and not in twofold, it's just, I agree with everything that she just said. That's on point.
Yeah, the last point I'll make is that it's becoming more prominent or more like we're realizing that going offline is pretty much a luxury. Like if you can find the means to disconnect, if you can find a way to not be chronically online, then that is something that is good for your health, good for your mental health, good for all those things. Yeah. But not everyone can do it if they run a business or if they have certain things. 100%. So it is very much becoming like if there's a way that you can do that, that's considered a luxury. It's considered something that people strive for, and it's not something that everyone has kind of like the privilege to do consistently, right? So that's where things are at.
We become slaves to it.
Yeah,
100%.
And kind of like a symptom of that, like we've seen with AI, like people vibe coding a bunch of stuff and like, oh, I can create all these things, and like sometimes it also leads to people that aren't necessarily qualified. They might have good ideas or they might have certain intentions, but this happened, and this is one example of this app called Oasis that's known for analyzing like the quality of products, right, and giving it like a score and saying like if it has a certain amount of toxins, or kind of giving like if this is good or bad for you essentially, and kind of giving you a score at the end of it. And then you have the founder that came out recently and was saying last 2 weeks have been rough, trending, public shaming, 80% of the team quit, lies spread about us, head of growth vanished without paying creators, several new cease and desist, friends launching copycats, personal address leaked, our top creators bought out, right? So he's like kind of saying like, hey, sucks, right? Also, so this was May 31st, 2026. Same day, guy shares Los Angeles aesthetics, an exotic car, a luxury gym, a fine. Yeah, so it's like, yo, you're a little bit disconnected here if you're not seeing that you're projecting this, and then you're kind of saying like, oh, I feel so bad for me that. So very, so people have come after him, and this specifically Snack Shot. She's like shared a bunch of memes about this, like, help me, I'm an innocent vibe coder for my dog shit app. Like this is where vibe coding has gone wrong. You have something like Lay's getting a 75 out of 100 score. It's good for you, right? Same thing with Tostitos. Meanwhile, you have like other healthy things that are not getting that. They're getting way lower scores and saying it's bad for you. Like Siete grain-free jalapeno chip, 19. So you're telling me Tostitos is healthier than Siete? It's hard for me to believe. Same thing with Kettle and Fire and their bone broth. Worse, like,
they're incredible.
Yeah. So again, it's like maybe you should have been locked in. This guy calls out and he's like, life while AI agents run my business. And he's like bragging about this stuff.
That's wild.
It's insane. And then people now joking about it, like they're showing like International Delight, which is not a healthy what's it called, a creamer for your coffee.
7700 on Oasis app.
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably 77 out of 100.
That's hilarious.
I love this one. It's like, thanks to Oasis, I've switched from poisonous Fairlife protein milk to bourbon, and I can't even begin.
That's hilarious.
So like the memes have gone rampant with this. Like you have other people calling them out. Also, like founders of certain, businesses that they've been hurt by this, right? So they're calling him out, and it's like they showed certain things that were outright wrong, like Premier Protein saying that it has X amount of lead and cadmium and other things. I believe this is the founder of Premier Protein, or one of these, saying like, hey, the original post is now deleted after 3.5 million views, and it drove the app to the number 10. And I have like dear friends and my mom's calling me in tears thinking they poisoned their newborn because they were trying to hit their protein goals, right? Like they're literally hurting people and businesses by doing this, and they don't realize like that the damage has been done. And saying that there's certain metals in products that are improperly cited or used incorrectly. So this has become a massive mess. And I'm sorry, I don't feel bad for this kid complaining about that his team, and he's going through all this stuff. Like, hey, when you're doing something at this level and you want people to trust your app to make decisions about their health and nutrition, and not be worried of like, hey, let's double, triple check that what's being shared is right, because the fact this is egregious to showcase that there are junk food that is better than healthy for you snacks and other products out there. So I had to call it out, because like this is the dark side and the not so great side of people that have gone on these binges of like, I'm gonna vibe code something and make a business and make a bunch of money. Like this is not the way to go about it. You have to be much more nuanced and thoughtful when you're going to do something that can impact people's health, people's livelihoods, and businesses that have been operating for way longer than you and your vibe coding career has been around.
Yeah, like you said, especially in this industry, man, it's you are dealing with people's emotions, and this gets people worked up. Anything health, nutrition, gets people worked up. I was in the keto space for a while, and it's just people are rabid, and people take this thing like really seriously, almost like religion. So you have to be very cautious when you get into this space. You have to be very you have to make sure that you're, like you said, double, triple checking yourself and your products and your ingredients and your app in this case. So yeah, I don't feel bad for him at all, especially after that post. Like, wow, how fucking disconnected, dude.
Yeah, no, there's more than that. That's
control.
one post of many that he kind of brags about his lifestyle, and they go on trips and all this lavish stuff. It's like, and even this was on May 22nd, so before that 31st date of like other stuff kind of compiling. It's like, cool, you called out 2 mistakes. There's way more mistakes than 2. And there needed to be a more holistic approach to, like, if you're going to apologize and you're going to do something, like, this isn't the way to do it. Oh, there was 2 things and we fixed it. No, man, clearly there's hundreds of issues going on with your app. So yeah, this is the dark side of things, that, you know, just be more aware of how you go about these things. Don't just vibe code something and expect to make a ton of money without there being repercussions, especially when you get into like health and wellness and things that affect the livelihood and the health and nutrition of people. So
1000%.
And then the last point here is that Apple also has been like quietly blocking certain vibe coded apps like that are made on Replit or Vibe Code from releasing App Store updates, like, and citing that App Store rules are, you know, they have rules against apps that execute code altering their own functionality. So Apple is being a little bit more on the forefront of this now, and you're going to probably see this across the board on Google and the Google Store and a bunch of others, because yeah, this can't be something that it goes unchecked. Like, oh yeah, I have AI running in the background and developing and making these decisions for me without there being a ton of people overlooking it and making sure that these things are accurate.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
And then moving on to the sports stories here, we have we're now in the NBA Finals. This was shortly after the Spurs beat the Oklahoma City Thunder and made it to the NBA Finals, and Nike released this spot, which I thought was really well done. This is as he has arrived, and, you know, kind of talking about Victor Wembanyama, and he's known for being called the alien. His logo is literally an alien, and I thought that was like a really cool, simple, subtle way to kind of like show that, hey, you know, this guy's here. Let's make sure that people know, and then also on the other end, there's this one creator that he uses AI and kind of made these spec ads of you know, Victor Wembanyama as if Nike did it. And San Antonio is known for having a nun community, and that they watch the sport, they play the sport of basketball. And so I thought this was really cool. Like, stop him, ? Just pray. And it almost like brings me back to like and one messaging, which was really cool, with like the Nike branding, showing things like this, like sitting down in the seats and then having like Victor there as well. You know, just something that seems almost like glorious in him, and how he's being posed here with the shadow in the background, him running up the staircases here with nuns there, and it was all done with AI, but really well composed and good references, and a lot of good creative direction being done here. And I think that people should feel inspired by this stuff, because it shows that even if you're like a 20-something-year-old, if you have a good vision and you know how to use some of these tools, like, it is a great way to get in front of like Nike and other brands to show like how you bring that to life. And obviously using sports and figures that are very like known is a cool way to kind of like flex your creative muscles here. So the last one here with him overlooking SGA, and it just says just pray, but PREY instead. So I thought it was well done, and some of the things that I feel are, you know, lighting up my feed, and I think that other people have been sharing it as well. So I don't know if you have any thoughts here before we go to the next one.
No, that's very cool, very creative, very cool. He is an alien.
Yeah.
What he's doing is insane. So very cool.
Then the next one here being more about on the business front, Stephen Curry strike the new shoe deal with Li-Ning, which is the Chinese shoemaker. And the rumor is that it's over $1 billion. There hasn't been any like real release of the numbers, but he joins other players like Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler, and others as like endorsed athletes under that brand. And the main thing here is that he retained the rights of the Curry brand, like the logo, the mark from Under Armour, when he parted ways with them after 13 years. And what's interesting about this deal is that it covers basketball as well as athleisure and golf, because Curry himself is a golfer. And then the icing is that he has the right to sign other athletes under his brand. So he gets to like kind of have this, you could be a Curry endorsed athlete now. And so it's cool. That gives him more flexibility and more control over his brand. And then the biggest call out here is like China alone has a market of over 300 million people who play basketball. There's like, that's almost the entire US population. So
that's wild.
Kind of looking at how that and positioning itself is like these people swooped in and beat Nike, they beat Adidas, Reebok, all these other brands in the US and brought him in. And it also shows like there's a chart here that kind of breaks the story down. The Chinese market obviously is massive, and Li-Ning has gained ground on Nike in China alone. Nike being one that has at its peak at over $8 billion in revenue. It's kind of come down to just under $7 billion. But look at Li-Ning kind of like making headwinds, and now as of 2024-25, kind of like breaking the $4 billion mark. And I'm assuming now with Curry joining that they're going to converge. It's going to get to a point where Li-Ning becomes the clear winner in that market. So it's just things to keep track of. And I thought it was like an interesting move on behalf of Curry and the landscape when it comes to sports and, apparel and shoe deals here.
Didn't Wade get some equity in the business when he made his deal?
Wade has his own line. It's Way of Wade. And so he also has a stake in it. He was the one that did it way long ago. He was part of the Jordan brand. He started off with Converse, and then he went over to Jordan, and then he parted ways, and then he was like the first one to join Li-Ning, where people were like, what are you doing? And like he kind of like has been with them for a while now. It's over 10 years, I believe. Then Jimmy Butler joined, a few others that I are coming to mind, and then Curry, obviously now. Like those are three pretty big names to have under your umbrella of a brand. So pretty big moves.
Very cool.
Last one here on the sports front, because this just dropped today. The Houston Rockets, they're doing a brand refresh, and they're kind of like doing a nod back to the 1970s.
Good. Bringing
back the yellow. They were kind of just stuck on the red and white for a bit, and they had this video, which we don't have to play right now, but it's called Rudy T, because they have Rudy Tomjanovich as like one of their most famous coaches that helped them win a title, and it has like Hakeem Olajuwon and Steve Francis and other guys that are famous in their lore and their history coming in. It has Mo Amir, who's like a comedic actor, being behind it. It's like they're in a diner, but it's kind of like an intergalactic diner because like Houston, the Rockets, and the space side of it and the association there. So they did that, and then they did a rollout here showing a little bit about like what their mark is, how like this new kind of brand evolution, which this little triangular thing is very much like a patch you would see on like a space suit. So they're making that, and then they have this little video that kind of shows.
We are on the verge of horizons even further.
Transition is complete.
Championship yellow.
So they have, it's a minute long. I won't play the whole thing, but kind of showing like their new threads. They're showing it on the players. What's cool is that they not only took influence from the 70s, they actually took some influence from the late 90s as well. And you can see here, like these were some of the original uniforms after they moved to Houston. And, they had the red and the yellow. The running joke was, and the reason why they said like mustard is back on the menu is because when they moved from New Orleans, I believe it was, those uniforms were like green and yellow or green and white. And fans were like oh, it looks like condiments, it looks like mustard and ketchup. So people made fun of them for that as fans. So then it's almost like a nod back to that now. And obviously they had these red and yellow and they won a title, but they did this weird thing where just after winning a title, they switched gears and they went to this kind of look, which at first it wasn't well received, but I kind of liked them. I did like this kind of like funky pinstripe look, but it was very much a departure from the red and the yellow. So this was a move that was done in, I believe in the 80s and the 90s. And so they now, and then in the early 2000s, you saw this switch over to kind of like having a more refined look of it. And I think it's good that you're starting to see this move, this shift back. And essentially, like we saw with pizza, a little bit of Wendy's, like they're trying to go back to the thing that worked before they overcorrected. But I do like that what they did, if you noticed in some of those jerseys, is they took the original look here that you saw with the red and the yellow, and they added those subtle pinstripes in there as well. So it's kind of like mirroring those two eras together. And so, yeah, the question here is like, is this a genuine return to roots? Is it just like nostalgia as like a safe move that for a brand that doesn't know where it's going? My take is I think it's a well done kind of shift. I think that they've kind of been in this weird limbo of like not knowing where they were. And I feel like now these are things that they can tie back to where they're from, Houston being a big space city and seeing launches happen there, and you know, having the history of the championships in those old kind of look and feel of the threads that they had back then. So I think that this is like nostalgia and a genuine return more than just like, oh, we're just following the nostalgia trend. So I don't know what your thoughts are here.
Yeah, I love it. Again, I say this every time. I hope the Dolphins are watching and looking, because they need to also revert back. But no, I like it. I like the whole, like you were saying, marrying the pinstripes and the colors and whatnot. And I'm always a big fan. The Titans just did it and we loved it. I'm always a big fan of going back to your roots and kind of merging modern with nostalgic, and I really like it. I don't love like the red and yellow, although the Heat have it as well. I'm not a huge fan of that color combination, but they do it. The Houston Rockets pull it off really well. I think the Heat do too, with some of their combinations. But yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I was not a big fan of the pinstripes. I definitely wasn't a big fan of the red and the white. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the new look and the new feel, and I think again more sports teams need to go this route.
The big thing about this one is that they made the shift almost like the year after they had won a title. So it was like, why are you doing this drastic shift? It's not like a team that's been in purgatory for 10 plus years. So that was like what was alarming about it. But I feel like more people have actually, this has grown on them. You know, just like that era of like the late 90s, early 2000s look, like the Vancouver Grizzlies and the Raptors, and like it had much more detail and much more nuance to it. And it wasn't just so like flat, minimal, just like basic. Yeah. So that's where I give them credit here. And I do like that even in this era, they had like the gradient and the fade in the pinstripes. It wasn't just like Yankee pinstripes, right? It was like a little bit more modernized. So I feel like it wasn't the right timing, but it was a little bit ahead of its time in a sense in some of the design details that were used. Even like this isn't just a circular, you know, collar. It was more of like that kind of divot thing that they even reference, like in the new shorts, it has that little arc thing that happens, a very like space age reference. So I like the details. I think that's well done. And I think the reason why it's a subtle move of adding it is because the Hawks are the one that are most known for like the yellow and the red, like big. So when you use it, it has to be done as an accent. It has to be done kind of like in a thoughtful way. Otherwise you're like, it gets confusing. So
agreed.
Yeah, that was kind of it. We threw in here another one that was a move. It's been out for a bit, but it's like just like a case study in looking at brands doing something right. Heinz being known for their bottle and their color, really, and just being able to see when a brand is like, is this really a Heinz brand, right? And so they made it so that people can't just refill their ketchup with aftermarket, discount generic ones, because you'd be able to tell. So they'd have a marker on the actual, thing that would show if the colors don't match, it's not really. So the border itself would have the red that should be the actual red. So they added that extra little red so that, hey, this isn't like a scam. This isn't like some fake stuff. And so making it unmistakably Heinz red. So it's good, leaning into the brand equity, like something that they can own. Now, question, I don't know if that was made with like that red dye that was fake or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you can really control it. That if it's really tomatoes, it does start greening and browning over time.
Sure.
It is kind of funny that they did this, but now there's like this anti-movement for dyes and all that stuff. So I wonder how this is playing out in today's game, where people don't care because it's just Heinz, it's classic. But this is just, at least from a brand perspective, I kind of respect it that they did something that not many people could pull off, right?
Well, and I think like a lot of the times you don't like a good branding and good color, your color wave and whatnot. Like a lot of the times you can't put a pulse on like how important that is to the product. But this is like a really good use case of that. It's like it directly correlates with the product that's inside, the quality of being Heinz. I say quote unquote because of the red dye, but the quality of being Heinz and being that product. So I found it to be such a great use case of like branding mattering and being useful for the product itself. But yeah.
Yeah, they basically have like their own Pantone color at this point. So
yeah.
Thought it was a cool kind of thing. Two final points here. One being, in the ever evolving updates, Reeve is another image generator, and they generate images in 4K. But something that was cool is that they now have created where when they generate the image, they kind of show you the layers and they identify the subjects and the objects in the layers. So you're able to see, is this a person? Is this a speaker? And then you're able to pinpoint and edit that. So you can see in this little video how it like. Those little bounding boxes show that it recognizes where these things are at.
That's cool.
We have way more control that you're able to like say, hey, this person's wearing a white dress. I want to change it to red or pink and do that across the board. I was messing around with it earlier today. There's still, things that it doesn't get right. As always, they're always going to show you the best examples. But I think in terms of structure and the way that you can go about editing, I feel like it's more intuitive than what we're used to, which is generate a whole thing. Sure, you could brush and select, but it doesn't even know where you're like, it maybe doesn't have the context. The fact that it's like generating with the context of like, this is a person, this is like this object, this is the scene, and you're able to like specifically pinpoint. The next thing is like, as we've seen with some of these other ones, the fact that you can identify the layers and then update them, let's say with text, let's say with fonts, like those are the kinds of control that you want as a creative to be like, great, you got me 60-70% of the way there. Now I'm going to take the ball and edit these things in a way. If I have control, I hope that I don't have to like, paint over this thing. Instead, I can actually go in and like just tweak these 3 things that I want. So I thought it was a good call out because I hope this becomes more of a trend and more of a model moving forward. And then the last thing, we'll end with some humor here. This voice actor released a video talking about every voiceover script right now.
Your business runs on business, but your business's business is stuck in the past. Until now. Introducing Business AI for Business. Business AI for Business leverages the power of business AI for your business, transforming your business into AI business. With Business AI for Business, Business AI does your business in seconds, leaving your team to focus on the important business of your business. Now your business is free to run your business at scale, at speed, at AI. The future of business isn't coming, it's here. Business AI for business. Business AI. Business AI AI AI.
She's done a few other ones. She did one today. I think it was about humans. It was like basically flipping AI with human. Like, you need human in your business? Like,
That's
and
funny.
so it's kind of just making fun of. It's so true that like every new startup, every new thing is like trying to inject AI into everything. And sometimes it makes sense, and other times you're like, man, you're just trying to make something out of nothing. So
Agreed.
I love seeing this kind of humor in my feed, and I hope to see more of it because you got to get a laugh at it, because if not, you get lost in the sauce.
Agreed.
So,
that was good.
So yeah, we'll wrap it up there. I don't know if you have any parting thoughts or there's anything else that you wanted to kind of chime in before we wrap up here.
No, just I think we've had a really good week. I don't really have any parting thoughts other than I think we are at the end of the day, we are a marketing podcast, and we're a marketing media podcast, however you want to slice it. And we always try to talk about the business. We always try to talk about the agency side of things as well. And I think that it's really important to have the balance of when you're dealing with clients, when you're dealing with people that are approaching you to for their brand or whatever the case may be. I think it's really important to make sure that there are clearly defined goals, clearly defined deliverables, clearly defined steps that you need to take to get to the goal that you want, but also like clearly defined lines as to what's a proper way of discussing and diving into things, communicating, and I think as an agency, we're always trying to do what's right and what's best for the client, and I think sometimes it's important to note as well that that the client can be wrong in some instances. In a lot of cases, they can be, and it's okay to, if you feel strongly about something, if you feel strongly about a path, about a situation, whatever the case may be, to speak up, to speak your mind, and to make sure that you're letting the client know that, hey, this is a path that we feel is not the way that we should be going. Because of X, Y, and Z. And then when it comes to communication and when it comes to respect or lack of respect in how a client communicates, I think an agency should always feel empowered to stick up for the agency, but also to stick up for the individuals that work with you on a day-to-day basis and your team. And I think anybody that is running a business in general, but in our case, running an agency, and your people are always first. Your people are always the most important, and I think that that you always have to keep that in mind, because at the end of the day, clients come, clients go, but your team is always here. Your team is what empowers you as an agency to be able to do what you do. So I think that's it's a parting way that I will leave with this week, with the week that we've had.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on that too. Is we had named today's episode, the Guardians of the Timeline, a while back, without knowing that essentially it's kind of like a microcosm of the idea of being guardians of your own time and energy. And the time we spent on our feeds, the time we spent working, the times we spent communicating with clients and others. And there is a moment where, we made a decision to step away from a project, and, because we felt that there wasn't that alignment anymore. And you have to be a guardian of your own time and energy and your team's time and energy, because it doesn't even matter the amount of money that you're making off of it. If it's causing anxiety, if it's causing people not to feel motivated to show up to work or work on a project, then it's now affecting more than that specific instance in that task, right? So what is that money worth if it now, like, you're now operating at, instead of 100%, at 70, 60, 40% of what you normally would bring in terms of energy and commitment and just like that creative sauce that you bring to the table. So I think we have to be very intentional about the way that we go about it. And as long as you know that you've done everything with the right intentions, and you know that your team has your back, and you're not doing something that's just brash, not a left field, that there are times when it makes sense to step away, fire a client, tell them that things aren't working out. And that's part of running a business. That's part of running an agency. And more than ever, it's actually a strength, not a weakness, to do that. Yeah. So, I'm very proud of us. I'm very proud of other agencies and other business owners that operate that way, because if not, you are just a slave to the work and your client, and you will continue to run into that brick wall because you don't want to continue doing the same thing and expect different results. So I think that's the way that we'll wrap it up, and appreciate you all. Tune in the next couple weeks, and we'll have another episode for you guys. But thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the flip side. Peace.